Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. If you've been collecting for a while, you may have noticed, but over the past couple months, there's just way more scams than usual. We already get a ton of scams in the hobby, but there's just way more people out there trying to get you right now. And I don't want you to feel silly or stupid if you've recently been impacted by a scam. Trust me, they are impacting everyone from seasoned collectors to your favorite content creators. There's just a bunch of people being impacted by scams right now. So in today's video, I like to share with you 5 simple rules that I typically follow to just protect myself from making sure that I don't get scammed. And I've been impacted in the past. There's been times when I've had to do chargebacks on purchases. There's been times when I've gotten resealed booster packs. There's been times when I've gotten fake products before. It impacts everyone, but in general, whenever that scenario occurs to me, I've always been protected in some way or other, and I've been able to recoup my money and make sure that I don't actually end up with a net loss. So in today's video, I'm just going to share with you some basic tips that I typically follow to make sure that it doesn't impact me long term. And if you have some other tips that you have that you follow as well, then absolutely share it with the community. Before we get started, I would like to thank Collectr for sponsoring today's video. You can download the Collectr app on Apple as well as Android. It is a fantastic application that allows you to track and manage your whole entire collection and portfolio. The Collectr app makes it super easy for you to know exactly what the prices on every single card inside of your collection are, and even the cards that aren't inside of your collection. Information is always at your fingertip, making it super easy for you to recognize when you are being scammed in one way or another in terms of the information at hand. Always make sure that you're tracking the latest information and know what your cards are worth. Half of the battle is simply having the knowledge to protect yourself. Absolutely track your information on the Collectr app. It is super easy and intuitive to use. Myself, as well as many other major content creators, all use the Collectr app to track our whole entire collection. Check them out today, connect with me on social media, and as well, follow me on the Collectr app if you would like to see every single card that is inside of my collection. You can click the link down in the description right now to see my whole entire collection showcase. Thank you again to the Collectr app for sponsoring today's video. My first tip for protecting yourself from getting scammed is to do your research, and this goes right in line with having the Collectr app, as well as just knowing the card that you are about to purchase. A lot of times people are making purchases without really doing their research, and the first thing that you can do to protect yourself from getting scammed is simply having the knowledge. I can think of numerous examples where I've gotten DMs and emails from other collectors or viewers who have said, "Hey, Jake, I just picked up a first edition base set Charizard for $1,000. Can you tell me if it's real or not?" And my first question back is, if you didn't know if it was real or fake, why did you even make that purchase in the very first place? So absolutely make sure that you know the card that you're about to purchase before you pick it up. If you're picking up an Umbreon VMAX, the Moonbreon card, the very minimum you should recognize is, what's the texture pattern? What does the font look like? Is there holographic patterns on it? How does it look in person? Those pieces of information are readily available on the internet. There's thousands of photos of pretty much every single card that you can ever think of. And if you want detailed information on how you can tell if your specific card is fake or real, that information is easily and readily available out there. There's been so many occasions where I can simply tell the card is fake from the very first photo immediately, from the dead giveaways of it lacking texture, lacking holographic pattern, having incorrect holo pattern, having incorrect fonts. Usually a fake Pokemon card can be spotted pretty typically by just simply having the background knowledge on the card. By simply having the knowledge of what the card looks like will help you so much in the long term. And don't think that if a card is graded, that means it's perfectly safe. You should also know that there are fake graded Pokemon cards out there. So before you purchase a PSA slab, before you purchase a BGS slab, you should know, what does a PSA label look like? What does a BGS label look like? Because they can be faked. Having the knowledge and general experience on these cards is exactly how you can pick them up in a safe environment. And that brings us up right to our second point, which is don't rush. So many times the scammers can scam you because they are rushing you. They'll say something like, "Hey, I got a fantastic deal for you, but you got to pick it up right now. If you don't pick it up right now, then I'm going to try to sell this to someone else." And you might be thinking, wow, this is a fantastic deal. If I want to pick up this opportunity, I have to buy it from the guy immediately. And that's how a lot of scammers will actually scam content creators or vendors, is they'll say, "Hey, I got a card for you, but I'm going to sell it immediately, and if you don't buy it, I'm going to take it." And typically, if the vendor thinks it's a fantastic deal, they might be willing to take that risk to purchase that card immediately. But by buying that card, they're missing out on point one, which is they didn't do their research. By rushing the vendor or the collector or the buyer, they made it so that you don't have the time to fill yourself in on the knowledge of the card. So absolutely, don't feel like you need to rush yourself in the hobby. There's plenty of time and plenty of Pokemon cards out there to collect. If you're missing out on one opportunity, another door will open itself at a moment's notice. So there's always another card to collect, and you don't need to feel to be rushed. My third tip is to buy from credible sellers. This is actually really, really important, but reputation is one of those things that cannot be bought in the hobby. And that doesn't mean I'll never buy a Pokemon card from a stranger or a brand new account that has never sold Pokemon cards in their life. I will buy cards from them, but I certainly won't buy a $1,000 or $10,000 Pokemon card from an account or a person that I've never met or heard of before in my life. I'll simply not make that risk. Will I buy a $5 card? Sure. Will I buy a $15 card? Absolutely. But a lot of times the top sellers out there, the auction houses with a lot of reputation and credibilities, those are where you're going to see the highest sales records. Highest record cards are always being purchased from the most reputable and credible sellers. And that's mainly because they are backing up those cards with their reputation that these cards are legitimate and they are going to get to you by a certain cycle. So that's really, really helpful. If you're purchasing a card from a brand new account that has never shipped a Pokemon card before, even if the card they're selling is real, are they going to ship it in the proper manner, right? So that's what a lot of the case is when you're purchasing from someone that's reputable or really credible, you are betting that they are going to get your card to you in a safe and meaningful way. And that's what you're betting on. So always buy cards from reputable and credible sources, and that's something that can easily be done through basic research. A lot of places like eBay or Amazon will have some sort of review system that generally makes it easy for you to recognize who you're buying your cards from. My fourth tip is to know the rules of whatever site or whatever method that you are buying cards or making your transaction through, and just have some basic buyer's protection. And that seems pretty straightforward, but a lot of people simply don't know the rules around the transaction that they are currently making. How long do you have before you can make a return? Can you even make a return? How long do you have to wait before you can make a chargeback? A lot of times, the way that I keep myself safe is by simply knowing the rules that I'm making the purchase through. If I'm purchasing Pokemon cards through a credit card, I know how long I have to file a claim, make a chargeback before it goes out of cycle and it's no longer possible for me to even dispute a transaction. Having that background knowledge really saves me from a ton of scams. It's just having the knowledge and rules in place for every single transaction I make. If I'm making a purchase through Amazon, do I know if I have the ability to return it? What is the return policy? If I'm buying a card through eBay, is it going through eBay's authentication? Is it going through a service that allows me to recognize if the card is real or not? Lots of places and marketplaces like SneakerDunk and StockX have their own authentication in place, but they're not always perfect. These are just people looking at the products beforehand, but every single step absolutely helps. So simply knowing the different safety nets that you have in place can significantly protect you from any future scams or fraud. My fifth and final tip, and this one is by far the most important one, but all of these tips kind of roll into one another, and my final tip is to use common sense. And that by far should be the first tip, but it's also the last tip for a very common reason, is because sometimes people don't use their common sense. And that seems super obvious. Well, you should obviously always use your common sense, but common sense is not something that can be trained or taught. It's something that comes with experience. And there's times when I backed out of a deal, even though everything seems fantastic about the deal, because my spidey senses tells me something seems off. You know, I don't like the way that they are currently communicating. They're over-promising. They're rushing me in some way. They're not making sense. They're providing information that is conflicting to something else they said before. There's lots of cases where there's not something that is very specifically wrong, but based on my experience and all the numerous transactions that I've done, something feels off about it. Lots of times I've made transactions before where I just get the vibe or the feeling that someone is trying to scam me. And if that's the case, I will use some of the previous rules and I'll say, hey, based on my knowledge, based on my experience of not rushing, I'm going to back out of this deal. No harm, no foul. This is someone that I can continue to communicate with. This is someone that I might do another transaction with in the future, but for whatever reason, the vibes are just off and I feel like I need to back out. So that is something that I can't teach you, but I think it's very obvious that yes, you should use your common sense. If something feels off about the deal, if something doesn't make sense, do your research, get a second opinion. Absolutely, ask someone else, ask another collector, hey man, I'm looking to do this trade right now. What do you think about it? Do you think it's a fair trade? Do you think this guy is selling me fake cards? Getting a second opinion absolutely never hurts. So these are the tips that I currently follow in my day-to-day life. These are the tips that I follow outside of Pokemon card collecting as well, and they've served me incredibly well. This will work for pretty much any kind of deal or transaction that you can always do, is to do your research, buy from credible sellers, don't rush yourself, use some common sense, and have some buyer protection. Having these basic rules can really protect you throughout your whole entire life and career of being protected from fraud and scammers. So hopefully this will help you guys out. This does not mean that you'll never get scammed, but it'll certainly give some safety nets in place to protect yourself in case something like this happens in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.